Welcome back to hollowing. This is the second in 3 videos we're doing. First one, we made this little project here, which was simply using some smaller hollowing tools, mostly carbide. Very convenient for doing projects like that. Well, this time I said I want to do something bigger, and we're going to do a vessel that's somewhat like this. But I'm not going to hollow through here. I said I was going to hollow it backwards, so I'm going to actually hollow from the bottom. So what we're going to do is create a blank. It's going to look sort of like this. This is going to be mounted on the screw chuck, and I'm going to take a piece out of the bottom, allow us to hollow through this area here, and then this piece will be put back in at the very end as a plug. Now if I get really good at grain alignment and nice clean lines, I can probably hide that. But I don't necessarily guarantee I'm going to be able to do a good job at that. So what we're doing is starting with a piece of wood. This is maple. This is also a cross grain blank, which means the grain is going this direction. Typical bowl. So when we turn, as we would in bowl turning, it's easy. But in hollowing, part of the time I'm going to be cutting from the center out, downhill with the grain. And part of the time when I'm doing some of these cleanup cuts here, I'm running right square into end grain. So it's a tough cut. But that's what we're going to do. I'm going to mount it on the lathe more than one time, and you'll see the process I follow to do a vessel like this, get this piece back in it. There's lots of different ways to do it. This is just one I'm choosing to follow today. But it gives me a chance to use some larger tools and some of the more traditional hollowing tools. So let's get started. First thing I did off camera ahead of time, I've already drilled a hole in here. There's a screw chuck on the lathe, and I'm going to start with this on center on my screw chuck, nice and tight. And I'm going to do a little bit of shaping. Mostly I want to hollow this and create that plug. That's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get this balanced here, flat here, and then I'm going to take away some wood in order to create this plug. So I have to reduce this and then cut this off. So that's the first task, is create the insert. Glasses, ready to go. Most of my initial work is with a standard 3/8 bowl gouge. Running clear, volume's all the way down. Yeah, it's a little out of balance, but not bad. We'll bring it back in. I don't know if you could hear the ticking as I was bringing that down, but the ticking is where I'm coming around and hitting the end grain fibers, and it sounds different than when I'm cutting the side grain fibers. So it goes tick, 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 tick. That's hitting those end grains as they come around. So let's take the end, make sure it's square. Since this is balanced now, I can turn the speed up. Be on center line, a little high. Pretty good. So now I'm going to cut away some wood to create that tenon I need. I need to know how big that needs to be. I'll kind of guess it. It's going to have to fit my chuck. So I need it long enough for the plug, but I also need it long enough I can get a parting tool in behind it and part it off. So if that's enough, I've got to add another 1/8 of an inch so I can get in there and part it. Okay, that's long enough. I'll use the skew chisel to square up this corner so I have it, but I'm also going to create a small angle to it, so when I put the piece in, it will fit snugly. Very slight angle. I'm looking at this relative to the ways of the lathe to see if the angle is sufficient. Part this off. So let's get the tool rest around in a better position. And I want the tool to come right center, so that's just a little high for this thick. It's one of my homemade parting tools. It's made out of a high-speed steel hacksaw blade purchased from an industrial supplier. I ground the teeth off and converted this into a parting tool. Okay. I'm going to part in at a slight angle, only because that side of the plug doesn't matter, and I want to have clearance. Changing angles, what you're seeing is me opening up that slot. I'm going to go to the left hand now. I'm going to eventually have to catch this. That's about ready to come off. So before I take it completely off, since this is going to be seen from the outside, might as well sand it while I can. Good enough. Now it comes off. So that'll be the plug in the bottom later. One thing I want to do right now, there's a beautiful piece of grain running through this piece, which is perfect. Allow me to line this back up when I insert it. In the past, I've had to pencil mark it between here and here so I could get the grain lined up, but that's a long way down the line yet. Set that aside. And now, I'm going to hollow this just enough that I can turn it around, grab it in the jaws of this chuck here. So this is a little bit of hollowing for that purpose. Just try a little bowl gouge here for a while just to get rid of some of this wood. Just a smidge more. too low. Does that work? Well, I need someplace in between those two settings. Now I've gone way inside. It's much smaller because I want to open this hole up, fit this plug later. I want to be sure I have enough wood to do that. See this surface flat. Let's just gauge real quick what size this plug is. It's about there. I need to gauge how big this hole really should be. I want to check it one more time. So here's the plug. Set my calipers to roughly that diameter. And my goal here is to be sure that it's not that big. I can actually put a pencil mark there if I wanted to. So if I don't go outside of that, I'm going to have plenty of wood to shape up the inside for this in a few minutes. Okay, that's just a reminder. Okay. Back to my skew chisel because I want a square shape in here also. Now I am lining up square. So now I can grab it on the other end. This is going to be the bottom. This is going to be the top. Do just a little shaping, then I'm going to reverse it. Now if I cut from here down, I'm cutting into end grain. If I cut from here up, I'm going with the side grain, so that's a much better cut. But we really need to do the shaping here. If I go this direction, it's a much easier cut. Now I'd like to cut from here down, but I don't have much working room. It's a good time to turn it around. I have a bark inclusion here, which is definitely going to go away, so that's just fine. Good. Expand that. And we'll do some shaping. before I go any farther, I'm going to switch off to another chuck. And I need to know and create a tenon right here that fit into these jaws. So let me measure this one. This is going to grab it. Yeah. So I need it right about out there, right there. That's fine. I know where that needs to go, so I'm going to shape above it. Too worried about anything other than this tenon right at the moment. And so I'm going to use my skew chisel, create a slight dovetail tenon in here that I can grab with a bigger chuck. And this will go away later. Got a hole in here I'll clean up also later. And this will get shaped a little bit more. So that's a start. Let's get rid of this chuck. Change out to the bigger chuck. And we should be able to grab it in this little groove I just made. Right about there. Now for all the hollowing, we're going to stay right in this particular position and work inside of this hole all the way up into the neck. A little shaping here on the bottom, but that'll just take a second. A little out of balance. Any other shaping is going to be done with sandpaper. Flip that corner again. Staying inside the pencil mark. Okay. Now, I want to create a hole to work from. And what I'm going to do is use the tailstock and a drill bit to come in here and do that. I like to start with a smaller drill bit, generally to create the hole, then go to a larger one to open up more. I don't want to put a lot of strain on smaller lathes. This one will handle it. Some lathes might not. So I'm going to start with a smaller bit. I also have a set of what's called Morris taper or taper shank drill bits, which makes it very simple. Stick it into here. No Jacob's chuck. Speed turns down. Yeah, that's about it. I'm not going to grab this. If this ever slips, hard on my hand. Now this hole can go all the way through because this will be the size of the neck. That cleans up the inside of the neck hole too. And into the neck hole, I can tell by the go to the next size drill bit. I'm going to look down between the jaws here and figure exactly how far down I need to go with this. And then I'm going to mark it on the drill itself. I've got a lot of marks from past, so I'm going to be sure this mark goes all the way around just for safety, so I don't pick up the wrong mark. Okay. Jab it in. Bring it up close. lock, speed still slow. And I now see a mark I can use. So now I have a hole through which I can do all my hollowing. And now we move into the purpose of the video. I have a lot of different hollowing tools here. Let me give you a show of what those look like first. I'll put them down here on the bench. This is a set of tools I made very much like the David Ellsworth hollowing tools. Mine come in 2 or 3 different sizes. I have a smaller version, I have a larger version. Another tool I've used, which is this is made by Trent Bosch, but I have to go back up under the shoulder, so I need something hooked to get into there. So this is a variation on Ellsworth's tool with a vent in it. This is Trent Bosch, which I will use in my handle. You saw in my last video some of the Kel-McNaughton tools. Here's a larger set, straight and bent. I'll probably use those also. And the last one, I saved one of the carbide tools from Hunter Tools for just taking out some of this mass right here. This is a square shank tool which will set nicely on the tool rest. All these tools, I'll probably start with this one from Hunter Tools. It's designed for small work like this. Because it's a square shank, it's pretty stiff. And I'll be able to take some of the internal mass out with this particular tool. So let me clear the deck, put these things away. Bring out my handle, which I will insert that tool in. And lose my bowl gouge. And this will slide right in here. Now I can set it the length whatever I like. Short probably is better. And I want clearance, so the tailstock, on this blade I don't have to take it off. I got a lot of clearance. Enough arm room. Okay. So on center line, most hollowing is always done with the handle horizontal. On center line, tools positioned in such a way that the cutter is not trailing, it's definitely not bleeding. So I'm going to just use the squareness of that. It's lined up to the middle of the hole, that looks pretty good. So let's do a little bit of cutting here. Since I'm working in center of the piece, higher RPM would be better. Now this tool, as you can see, it's pretty straight. I can't get back up underneath any of the shoulder with it. But I did get rid of a lot of mass. And I probably still can take some more out with this one. And because I have such a large hole, I'm able to get a straight tool back here. I'm going to introduce one more tool. Piece of aluminum rod, flatten the end. If anybody who does hollowing knows what this is. You always have to get in there and do a little bit of cleaning. So I'll keep this at hand. I don't think I can do much more with this, so I'm going to take it out. I stopped to think a little bit about what tool I want to use. This is a David Ellsworth style tool I made. The cutter is a piece of high-speed steel drill rod. This is straight. I have another tool where the cutter comes out at an angle, which I will also use. This one is just about right for vessels like this. I can keep it horizontal. I can hold it. And I can remove some more mass. Now, I can line this up in the center because I can stick this into the hole and know exactly where center is. Now, this is a little bit smaller in diameter, so I had to raise the tool rest a small amount. Now, since that's in there, I don't know whether that cutter is here, here, or here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a mark right there. Now I know where up is on that particular tool. Let's take away some mass with this. There's the hole. There's really no point in looking, is there? Because I can't see. Probably with some of the cameras you might have a better view than I do. But I know right now that we've taken some more mass out up in this area here. I'm going to take a little bit more off with this tool, and then I'll come down and work this bottom portion first. Okay, let's take a little bit more off of this. You notice what I was doing before I turned the lathe on. I had my hand here like this, and I was literally just pushing the handle backwards. This is a pivot point. My hand is to keep it flat on the tool rest so the vibration is low. I could have done it like this. Less comfortable for me, but might help you see better. But basically I'm just pushing the handle back horizontally, trying not to do this or this. How do I find the center? There's a hole in it. There's the hole. I know where I am. Right up on the neck. The tool is slightly rotated counterclockwise. Right about there, I'm running into a place where this tool is not working very efficiently. Two things to remember. I'm not pushing the tool into the wood. I'm keeping it against the wood and letting it come around and cut itself. Secondly, when I'm done cutting, that tool comes straight out. If I had a small hole and a bent tool in here, any motion like this could be very dangerous to the piece. So let's clean it up just a little bit. It's dry wood, so this cleans very nicely. Got a lot more up there to come out. But I want to clean this area here up. And to get back up under this shoulder, I've got to have a tool that's bent. Let's try my Ellsworth style tool. And again, horizontal needs a reference mark. Now, because this is hanging over like this, in this angle, there's going to be a tendency for this to torque. So I want it rotate in my hand. So good hand grip, not a lot of pressure. The farther this hangs out, the more it's going to want to torque. And more likely I have of catching it if I'm not careful. So we're back up under the shoulder, which means I've got to come way around here. I'm cutting right up under this area here, trying to get this bottom flat. Straight out. Big hole. I get a chance to check this with my fingers. How am I doing? Well, it's pretty good. Back to about here. So now I got to move from this area on out a little bit farther. lightly touching to figure out where I am. I'm feeling the shape of the bowl with the tip of the tool, because I can't see. Okay. Right about here. Now you heard just a little bit of vibration there a second ago, and that was this tool vibrating. I'm this far over the tool rest, which means the farther this thing sticks over, the deeper the vessel is, the more the shaft needs to be stiffened. And the way it typically is done is by using larger diameter tools. I've got a nice little groove in here, and the point of the groove and notches is gives me a place to feel. I know exactly where I am. So I'm going to change again. I'm going to change to a tool that's very similar, but designed to get back into that location. So this requires me to put this in my tool handle. Loosen the screws just a bit more. And because the handle's hollow, I can put this down as short as I want. I don't want it sticking out too far. Now with the bent tools, it's even more important that I know that rotational angle. But I've lined up the cutting edge with the screws in the handle, so I have a built-in reference mark. If I rested on the tool rest here in the middle of this curve, it's going to torque it over. So I've got to bring the rest back to a stable spot here. The cutter is roughly in line with the shaft, so when this is cutting, I should be pretty stable. But here is a place where I don't want to be. I want to be back here. And I'll be sure I got enough tool rest in the back. And now I can work this area up in here. When you're at the fattest portion of the vessel and you're cutting, this is where the chips want to build up. So as I cut, the chips then are causing the tool to be pushed away from the wood. So as you're working in the fattest portion of the curve, you've got to stop and clean the chips a lot, because that's right where the cutter needs to be. Okay, we're pretty good. There's a bump right there, so I need to clean that up. And I can do that by feel easily. Light cut just coming around that corner to clean up that surface. I know nobody can see this, but the idea is I want to have it nice in there anyway. So the curve's pretty good here. Now we've got a lot of mass in this area here. All has to be taken out. So I feel a ridge here, which is way up in here, and the curve comes around here and stops right about there. So there's a shoulder, and I'm going to go in there and start taking this mass in this area out. Leave lumps and ridges. That's how you find out where you work. Going in carefully, revealing my surface. So there's the ridge. going to change to another tool, just because I haven't used the McNaughtons yet. So I'm going to pull this out since I'm working now where I have plenty of access. I don't need the curve tool as much as I can use a straighter tool now to work this area in here. I'm going to change this out. And this is the straighter version of the McNaughton. I'll try it first. I don't think I need a curve tool anymore. That's a very nice cutter, I like that. I also like my McNaughtons. If you're working with greenwood, chip removal is even more of a problem because they tend to compact and get difficult to get out. You need the aluminum tool. So from here on around, I need to create that curve like this inside the neck. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to find the center hole. There it is. Rotate my tool just a little bit. Okay, a little more vibration I need. Straight tool, I can come in tighter. Now the chips are going into this area, and not so much of a problem, but I need some more shaping here, that's for sure. I have a lot of advantages on this project. It's a big hole. I get my finger in here. I can actually look if I wanted to. There's many times you don't have that option. And the result is that you learn to feel the tool cut and to know where those ridges are because you can feel it through the tool. And that is a learned, practiced behavior. Are there other ways? Yes. We'll talk about those in the next video. So I'm trying to feel a curve like this. And it's starting, but it's not there yet. In the center. Trying to blend that curve with this curve. Lots of chips. Okay, I'm getting there. Yeah, I just want to smooth this up a little bit more. I think we're getting very close. It's about there, but it's not very smooth in here now, being something you'll never see. I suppose it doesn't matter too much, but it does to me. So I'll find a way to blend these two curves in here. See if this will. That's pretty good. One more cut and then we're going on to the next step. Good, okay. Now I need to fit this plug. Remember, this has to go into here, and we've got a grain alignment with that little piece of included. There we go. And all I have to do now is to shape this so that plug will fit. And I don't have much to take off, about 1/8 of an inch it looks like. That's just scooch doesn't work. I'm going to take a little, measure a little, take a little, measure a little, because once I get this fitted, there's no going back. See, that's awfully close, and what I'm going to do is take a little bit more off of this to fit it. However, before we put that plug in, I need to finish the top of this, which has not been completed. And I'm going to grab it here. So that means going back to the original chuck, have a square shoulder here and a flat bottom. I should be able to grab this pretty easily. And if I mar it up a little bit inside, it's going to be covered with the glue joint of that plug. That's nice and snug. So now we'll finish this off. I need my gouge back. And now we'll work on this area here. So the rest of it is sanding. Gluing this plug in. It's not quite sized yet, but it'll get fitted in there just fine. And we end up with a piece that we could then add finish. Now, I put a mark around here, which is where the glue joint is, and I put a couple other marks on here, just simply as a little decoration. But basically, what we have is all the turning done. Thanks for watching, folks. Next video, we'll deal with those situations where you can't see and you really need to know wall thickness. And what I'm going to do is show you some stabilized boring systems and why stabilized systems have a value in hollowing. And I'll show you one particular brand and how we use lasers to measure and control that wall thickness. I hope this is meeting your interests and needs. Please subscribe, send us your comments, and we'll see you in the next video.